In 1949, Germany formally split into two independent nations, the Federal Republic of Germany, allied to the Western democracies, and the German Democratic Republic, allied to the Soviet Union. Between the two independent states, I prefer to present for the first time the eastern part of Germany, the one with the Soviet influences. After the end of the World War II in Europe, what remained of pre-war Germany, west of the Oder-Neisse line, was divided into four occupation zones, each one controlled by one of the four occupying Allied powers: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union. The capital of Berlin, as the seat of the Allied Control Council, was similarly subdivided into four sectors, despite the city's location, which was fully within the Soviet zone. The German Democratic Republic, often known in English as East Germany, existed from 1949 to 1990. It covered the area of the present-day German states of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Brandenburg, Berlin, Sachsen-Anhalt, and Thuringen. This area was occupied by the Soviet Union at the end of World War II. East Germany's political and economic system reflected its status as a part of the Eastern Bloc of Soviet Allied Communist countries, with the nation ruled by the Socialist Unity Party of Germany and operating with a command economy for 41 years until 3 October 1990. After the Soviet occupation of Eastern Europe at the end of World War II, the majority of those living in the newly acquired areas of the Eastern Bloc aspired to independence and wanted the Soviets to leave. Taking advantage of the zonal border between occupied zones in Germany, the number of GDR citizens moving to West Germany totaled 865,000 in just 4 years. With the closing of the inner German border officially in 1952, the border in Berlin remained considerably more accessible because it was administered by all four occupying powers. On 11 December 1957, East Germany introduced a new passport law that reduced the overall number of refugees leaving Eastern Germany. On 15 June 1961, First Secretary of the Socialist Unity Party and GDR State Council Chairman Walter Ulbricht stated in an international press conference, "No one has the intention of erecting a wall." It was the first time the colloquial term wall had been used in this context. The transcript of a telephone call between Nikita Khrushchev and Ulbricht on 1st of August in the same year suggests that the initiative for the construction of a wall came from Khrushchev. However, other sources suggest that Khrushchev had initially been worried about building a wall, fearing negative Western reaction. Khrushchev had become emboldened upon seeing US President John F. Kennedy youth and inexperience, which he considered a weakness. In the 1961 Vienna summit, Kennedy made the error of admitting that the US wouldn't actively oppose the building of a barrier. On Saturday, 12 August 1961, the leaders of the GDR attended a garden party at a government guest house in Döllnsee, in a wooded area to the north of East Berlin. There, Ulbricht signed the order to close the border and erect a wall. At midnight, the police and units of the East German army began to close the border, and by Sunday morning, 13 August, the border with the West Berlin was closed. The barrier was built inside East Berlin or East German territory to ensure that it did not encroach on West Berlin at any point. Later, the initial barrier was built up into wall proper, the first concrete elements and large blocks being put in place on 17 August. West Berliners demonstrated against the wall, led by their mayor, Willy Brandt, who criticized the United States for failing to respond and went so far as to suggest Washington what to do next. In what follows, I would like to present some aspects of East Germany during the entire Soviet government. West Germany received high amounts of funds from the Marshall Plan. This allowed West Germany to recover its industries, preventing an agrarian-based recovery which would be much slower. The East did not receive any aid from the West, instead being confined within Comecon, so its recovery was much slower. Instead of pouring resources into East Germany, the Soviets instead confiscated land and had East Germany pay reparation to them. By establishing Soviet joint stock companies, East Germany's heavy industries were either nationalized or confiscated by the Soviets. 1949, 100% of automotive factories were under Soviet control. 95% of chemical industry was under Soviet control. 93% of the fuel industry was under Soviet control. Officially, the Ministry for State Security, or Stasi for short, was the secret police organization of East Germany. It was one of the most pervasive secret police organizations in the Eastern Bloc, as it sought to infiltrate every institution of society and every aspect of daily life. In 1989, the Stasi had 1.5 million unofficial collaborators, 100,000 regular employees, and 6 million citizens under surveillance. The Stasi also supported terrorist organizations in West Germany, notably the Red Army faction. Life in East Germany was tough. Examples include buying a car could involve a 10-12 year wait. Religion was disapproved of by the state. People could be prevented from going into further education due to political reasons. There were frequent shortages of food, water, electricity, and other basic amenities, particularly throughout the 1950s. This lessened with time. However, living conditions were still rough in comparison to the West. Nevertheless, East Germany was one of the most prosperous Eastern Bloc countries, as it was sometimes seen as a showcase of communist policy against the Western powers. Given the above, I cannot have a strictly objective opinion about what life was like in East Germany. I leave it to you to decide how this period influenced the development of the German state in what would later become. In the end, I would like to present some statements of those who lived in those times.